in the heart.
Hi there.
Of me.
One of the things that we've been talking about this week is all of the Rat Pack lingo, and we haven't worked on it for a while, so we're going to give you some reminders.
Competitors out here, don't you think? Let's get those competitors out here.
I think so. Where is that Rat Pack?
Come on, Rat Pack. Look at these guys. There's
All right, give them a big hand. Come on, guys. All dressed up in their vests.
Have a seat, fellas. Nikki, there's one thing I'd like to know. Is Rat Pack lingo your bag? Because I think you're a cool dame who is a solid big leaguer.
I don't want to be a square. I think it'll be a real gas. So let's do this thing 18 karat.
Wowie, wow, wow. Let's see if our RCs or big leaguers can use these words. All right, first base, you have to use the lingo correctly to get into the groove of the game.
So try to use as many of these words as possible, but not the same one repeatedly to prove you're a sharp player.
You can use multiple words per sentence, but not the same word multiple times in the same sentence, if you dig it.
And our cool judges aren't platinum when it comes to violating the rules. So pay attention or it's Endsville for you all.
Let's get this swinging clam bake on. Javi and Dan, you're both cool players, keeping count. Those are your guys over there.
Woohoo! So I dig this gig, so let's get started. You guys all set with the rules? Okay, now last WRC, we had some kind of cheating. That's why we have judges this time. Yeah, somebody's saying words repeatedly over and over kind of thing. But this actually is going to be a full-on competition because there is a prize for the person who wins, and you get the infamy of winning. And then we're going to pass it. It's going to be a tradition, so it's going to be passed on WRC to WRC. So you'd be the proud first winner of the prize. Okay? No pressure. No pressure. All right, so we had a lot of questions. These are great, so we're going to get into them. The first had a lot about telework, so thanks for sending in the questions. I'm going to kind of consolidate those. And Tim, let's start with you to try to address some of these, and then you guys can jump in if you want to. But telework, we had lots of people talking about, Zeph and different things that have been talked about this week, and they're concerned about telework being limited, so limited to 1 day a week, limited to certain hours. Certain people may work better after 6 o'clock, like till 7 o'clock. How are we going to kind of put the money where the mouth is and make things happen? And why not just have people work from home full time? Because you've got files in the office and you've got files here. So all kinds of different things with telework. Can you address that?
Wowie, wow, wow. That's an interesting question. Just from my observation is that we've been sort of a bunch of squares when it comes to implementing telework across the organization. And the reason I say that is because I would imagine everybody's come across somebody who is not that sharp, who is saying things like, well, it's fine for other people to telework, but this kind of job does not lend itself to telework. Or it's fine for everybody else to telework, but my job doesn't really lend itself to that. So I think what we need to do is think more like big leaguers and really just try to get into the groove of telework. All right, I'm gonna stop because it's
like you're setting a high standard.
But I'll just tell you one quick thing. I think it is something that the more you do it and the more you find ways to do it, the better technology it is, the better it works. I've started doing it once a week, and I find that it's really, it's not perfect for every day. I try to do it on Wednesdays. It saves me the drive into the work, and what that made me think is that from a leadership perspective, what a difference we can make in our employees' lives by allowing them that flexibility. And I think, there's an IT slam going on this week to start to work out some of the final issues like, you can't pay for paper at your house and what do you do about internet connections for people who don't have that. All that stuff is being worked out. And I think that's really the answer, is that we just need to start thinking about it differently. And as leaders in the organization, we need to model it.
Okay, thank you. The next question was about the IT issues. So those are some things that are being discussed this week as far as equipment and better response times and things like that. Okay.
Yeah, that was a follow-up. So we had the first IT Slam, which was the Ride the Light effort, which was, Nikki, you were there. That was back in March or April-ish.
April-ish.
And so there's been a lot of work done, and this is phase 2 to find out what's going on in the IT infrastructure that will allow us to support telework. So there's the IT piece being dealt with this week, and then there's the culture piece that I think is being dealt with across the agency, and we're just really trying to think our way through it.
Okay, Thanks, and thanks for using the lingo. Let's turn it to Jeff, because there was a lot of talk about one GSA, and it's good that we've had FAST here, so there were lots of good compliments. But the question is, we talk one GSA, what's the plan to have FAST actually get involved in IT and furniture for our customers?
Am I on? I can't tell. Oh, yes, I am now. Well, you know, when folks say one GSA, I do kind of twitch a little bit. Because I think the way one GSA was a couple of years ago wasn't exactly a ring-a-ding approach. Now, that doesn't work very well, does it?
We'll give it to you.
Yeah,
we'll give it to you, right, guys?
You know, give me a half a point for just an effort there. Because we tried to make it happen by organizing. So we tried to say, well, here's the organization, here's the office of one GSA, and it was a Region 9 thing. And I don't think it's something that you organize around. I think it's something that becomes effective and works well when both PBS and FAS break out the hula hoops, like was done earlier, and try and figure out what those intersections are and where business sense about transactions exists, and understanding that when you do that, and when you do that together, that you can find opportunities that benefit both PBS and FAS. That's why in Region 9 I tend to think when we tackle these things, we really are big leaguers about it. Does that work? I don't know.
Thumbs up over there from the judges.
Thanks, guys. So we really are trying to make this work. We're trying to find the opportunities where we can help each other. And of course, we have the wonderful opportunity in Region 9 with John Boyan retired several months ago. So we can sort of actively recruit for somebody in a leadership position in FAS to help us be successful with this.
Okay, great. Good insight about the relationship between FAST and PBS and what's going to happen. Rob, let's turn it over to you for what's your position with agencies that want to move out of federal space to lease space at substantially higher rates, and how do you talk to customers about that?
Well, before I answer that question, Nikki, I just wanted to let you know that you're a really cool dame. I dig you a lot.
20 points.
Actually, this is an 18-karat thing. I just hate the idea of an Ensville moment in this thing. So I'm really groovy for the grooving for the I don't know.
Good. Woo!
What was the question?
Exactly.
Was there a question in there? We've had this conversation with a number of our agencies where they're not really happy with the facilities they're in, and quite frankly, I think has been a great opportunity, solid opportunity for us to improve some really square property and make it hip. But the conversation is we want to move out to more Class A space out of federal buildings, and that's where you have to take off your customer service hat and put on that asset management, federal asset management responsibility hat. And I know each one of us in our regions have had to tell agencies, I'm sorry, but you're moving back into unoccupied federal property. We have to do that, I think, to show them the metrics, to show them the dollars, what the taxpayer consequence is for those moves. We have a very frustrating situation in Alaska, and we really have to act like big leaguers up there when we go and talk to a group of interior agencies and agriculture agencies who want to move from different individual leases. They want to move into a campus setting. Mm-hmm. It defies everything we are being told by OMB in terms of causing construction. They're giving us all the arguments about the benefits of consolidation, yet they don't have any imperial metrics in terms of how much consolidation will save them. So we keep going back with, yeah, but a build-to-suit solution would cost you so much more than us getting to first base on something where we have existing stock. So they're not gassed by our situation, but we're going to continue to fight the fight, and at some point, at least in the Alaska situation, we've had to go all the way up to Martha Benson, to the national account function, to go to the secretaries level of the departments to make sure that we had the support we had for what is an administration position, not a GSA position.
Yeah. You're really smooth with that. That's good. He just kind of slides it right in. So good job, Rob. Jim, this is kind of a follow-on question, or it's related. If we are trying to be more strategic in backfilling our owned inventory, is there a plan to request additional funds to bring buildings up to the same condition as buildings we would lease from the private sector?
Well, that's a great question. It's right in my bag. It's certainly something that us big leaguers out there want to be on our game about and taking care of going forward. What was the question again?
I was going to read it again. I couldn't remember either.
We definitely need to consider what we're going to do in terms of backfilling vacant federal space so we can move folks out of lease space. We've got to figure out where to get that money. It's money in the, the 54 program is tight. We want to do that initial space build out. We want to be talking to customers about doing innovative space solutions. And it takes money to do that. Hopefully, the customer agencies are going to be under pressure as well to meet their carbon footprint issues, downsize space, and as a result of that, they'll have some cost savings and they can bring some money to the table. But between what they can do and what we can do, we've really got to try to take small bites at the apple, I think, going forward and fix this problem. Because the bottom line is what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Very good. Jeff, let's go to you for reconfiguration of space. Executing the plan for consolidation and reconfiguring space takes money, and everything we hear is that budgets are getting tighter. So how are we going to sell this and actually get it done?
Well, I'll have to begin by saying I dig that. That's a very cool question. And thank you for tossing it my way. That's just very well done. And I have kind of a solid, not square response for you. The question was what again? No, I actually have there is a good answer to that. It is, we have to do the thing that we do every day. If you think back to the beginning of the ERA projects, I don't know, some of the regions, all of the regions must have done what we did. We were asked to put it all together and come up with a list of what needed to be done. Region 9's list was $6 billion. That's all the stuff that we thought we needed to have done. So we ended up with $600 million in terms of Recovery Act, and we were grateful to get it. Please don't misunderstand. So the needs out there have been greater than the resources for years and years and years and years. So we have to do the thing that we do best, is we have to prioritize where we put those resources. We have to recognize that they are going to continue to be limited, perhaps even more limited. And I think we have, as a group, come up with pretty effective ways for figuring out where to make the best investments that have paybacks, not just to what we do every day, but paybacks to our customers. Improving their space, improving the space and how it suits their mission. I think we have to keep doing what we've done for years, and we have to do it into the future, because I think that's the skill set that we possess in the area of real estate that our clients don't. Mm-hmm. It's the expertise we bring to the table.
Okay, thank you. Rob, this one is about consistency, and I know Tony was talking about how he talked last year about consistency, but the question is, now that we have consistent titles, when do you see the regions looking similar? Because we're still confusing some customers that we look different, especially in service centers, acquisition, and FMSP. How can we resolve that?
Wowie, wow, wow. Such enthusiasm. A little platinum feeling here. Consistency for me is it's interesting because I think when Bob and Martha came in a year ago, consistency became a bad word for a while because consistency was viewed to some extent as the antithesis of innovation. Yeah. And clearly one of our three hallmarks now is innovation. I don't see it that dramatic. I think that the consistency with roles and titles had to do with those customer-facing activities. I mean, I don't give a whit about titles internally. As long as we know what we do, what our roles are, when we form our project teams, that we define who's responsible for what. Now, I do think it is important customer-facing that we not confuse the customer. So, if GPM takes hold to where every transaction we do is with that discipline, that we've got an identified project manager and the roles defined, and I think a lot of that goes away. Regional organization consistency has never been a starter for most of us up here. I don't think it will be. We are different. Our geography is different. I mean, in the National Capital Region, I dig their approach because all they need is a fare card to get across town. They have a solid transit system. In the Pacific Northwest, it takes 3.5 hours to get from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska. The distances are huge in the Pacific Rim region, and Texas as well, and even in 8. We have vast geography. But in my region, our 5 major urban areas comprise over 85% of our inventory. Jim Weller, to get 80% of your inventory, you'd have to go probably to 20 different urban areas. So our customer base is different, our geography is different, our cultures are different. I think only to the extent that we are affecting our ability to deliver for the customer is structure then important.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jim, how about you about GPM? We have the GPM panel up here, but a question was, we have many GPMs that tend to boss around lease contract officers. How can this power struggle be resolved?
Well, GPM, as you saw just from the demo here today, and anybody goes to the breakout session, this is clearly an 18-carat effort for GSA. And we're on our way to get to first base on this thing and move it forward, and very, very important. The key question is the role of the PM and the role of the team members and who's in charge at any given time. And I think you heard just from the panel this morning where they talked about the PM. I think the trivia question was, is the PM always responsible for communication? And the answer was, not directly all the time, but overall, yes, the PM has that responsibility. And really, that can cascade down to a lot of the other tasks for the members of the team on the GPM effort on that project team. The lease contracting officer, the acquisition contracting officer that are key members of that team are going to play a major role in deciding on the acquisition strategy and working with the project manager going forward. So there's going to have to be some give and take, and it's something that's going to have to be worked on and developed. And within the regions, we're also creating project sponsors for some of these big GPM projects. And the role of that project sponsor is going to be to help educate and resolve some of that stuff. And if it doesn't get resolved there, it needs to bounce up. But it's something that we're going to work on, and we're not going to have Ennsville with. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Let's go to Tim. This is regarding kind of mini GSAs. There are many agencies doing the role GSA was created for. Is there any way that we can change that? For example, EPA establishes regulations and they're getting into more acquisition.
Ring-a-ding. What a platinum 18-carat, big league, cool question. I dig it. Now, I'm going to answer that in a second. I'm going to hope I get to first base before this session is at Ennsville, because these players have a clam bake to go to.
Whoa.
I do remember the question. I'm not a square. So that is something that I talked about in my presentation the other day. It really is our bag. That's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, is the shadow GSAs, the mini GSAs. And I think there's a couple of ways to think about that. And the first is that I know this is where we already are, is we have to be really good at what we do. We have to lead with our expertise. We have to be good at real estate. We have to be good at acquisition. We have to be good at all of those core things that we do. So that's key, and that's kind of the foundation. The second thing, and this is the thing that I'm most excited about, I think, in terms of customer service branding right now, is this idea of ease of doing business. And I mentioned that there's that customer effort score. So think about that. If we just say we had that as a measure, not just in PBS or FAST, but nationwide, that we would measure, how much effort, how many resources across the government are dedicated to kind of interfacing with GSA. And what if we said we want to cut that in half over the next 5 years or whatever? Now, that doesn't mean we're going to work our friends at the SSA facilities office out of a job or the DoD program office. But what that means is that we start to take a different approach. We become easier to do business with. Then over time, those agencies can start to be more strategic about. So EPA, perhaps, if we could prove to them that we were solid, that we were easy to do business with, they could use those resources for whatever core mission things that they need to do. Clearly, they don't have enough resources to do that. So that a what if, that would be a really cool thing to think about. That's just Tim lingo, not even Rat Pack, but I guess I get credit for it. So that I think that's okay. And then the final thing is I think we have to figure out, in terms of ease of doing business, we have to figure out the technology. I mean, that's something that's a huge issue. You know, I bought my one-man Wolfpack shirt here to come here this week, and it was one click on Amazon. I didn't have to enter my credit. I didn't have to do anything. And, you know, that's a company that I think really has this ease of doing business figured out. And I'll pay the extra $5, $6, $7 as opposed to getting on whatever tshirts.com, because they you know, they save all your information and they have it in there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, this has been a real gas, but we're coming to the end because I know people are getting hungry. So let's start to tally up some of these votes. Steve, you want to start directing us with the count?
I will. You guys were really swinging. You had your groove on, I got to tell you. All right. This is a big moment.
Consultation. You guys did very well with this. Maybe next year we should do like points for style, or
I think the Pandora thing. What, evacuate the dance floor, Tony said.
yes, right.
I think so.
Like, can we, like, Europop,
use
can
it
we make
most
that? How many Europop references can we do?
About 3 years from now, yeah. Okay, we'll try that one. You all did very well. I think you used about every one on the list, but I really liked Rob's because I think he called me a cool dame. So that one works. Works great.
Well,
All
right.
Thanks, Jim. All right, you guys ready?
The judges have consulted, and despite these two guys from Region 9's enthusiasm for their own boss, with the correct interpretation of the rules and application to the sentences, Mr. Rob Graff from Region 10. Come on, guys. Come on. Stand up, Rob. Stand up, brother.
Thank you. You are.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.